I'm not here to even teach you anything. I'm really here to meet you as you are. And I'm honored to be here, to be a part of this conference, this beautiful group of like-minded people, inquisitive, alive, willing. And I looked at what the title of, I guess, what I'm supposed to be speaking about, the nature of self. And I thought, well, maybe this is a trick question, like a trick title. The nature of self. It's beautiful. And when I just tuned in, what is not self? Everything, the biggest, the smallest. But I realize our challenge as human beings with our beautifully evolved cognitive thinking power have a particular challenge, and that's to recognize, as we open to the discovery of what is self and what is the nature of self, our infatuation with our power of thinking is really the saboteur. So I'm not anti-thinking, and I think this power that as human beings we have been given or has evolved is awesome, and I'm very happy with it. But perhaps in particular when we are speaking of with such magnitude of issues of self and consciousness, we have to be very aware of how we are most likely to believe what it is we think, and to search for others who can also believe that, so that we can get reinforcement for what we think. I know the word self, if it is thought of in a phrase like self-conscious, really just refers back to some sensory awareness. But if we don't know what self means, or if we are willing to empty self of all the meanings that we have collected about it, just to empty it of meaning, then we see the word itself is useless, and we can even do away with that word. In fact, that's what I suggest for these few moments together. Let's don't use the word self. What's here? What is always here? Let's don't define that. Let's don't know that. Let's don't understand that. I'm not suggesting we go to sleep in the face of the discovery of what is always here. We stay conscious. We stay awake. We are willing, for this moment anyway, to not fill in the void. Kenny mentioned death, and so much of our activity is about filling in that void that we feel to be death. And we fill it in with our knowledge. And in one sense, that's beautiful, because our knowledge grows and we are enriched by knowledge. And then there is something like poetry. This young man who was reading or reciting his poetry before I came up. It's something that you can't grasp, but actually uses words to express what's bigger. So if for this evening you don't even know the word self, and you don't know the meaning of nature or of yourself, but that you are a poetic expression of what is, just as you are in this moment, then we have the the groundwork for a real conversation. Not me teaching you anything, not you agreeing or disagreeing with me, but a meeting that's really out of the bounds of our knowledge. Or maybe more accurately, is closer than our knowledge, more intimate than our knowledge. I looked at the schedule and I saw someone who's speaking after me about the psychedelic experience. And that was a really important phase of my life, psychedelic experience, because in a sublime instant, all my constructs were melted. And there was just this radiant isness, beingness. I could never be the same after that. And yet, what my attachment to my power of thinking did was to take that and then make it a new construct. And I have discovered that this is the way we're made. This is what our brains do. We don't have to fight that. But as conscious beings, with this extraordinary gift of reflective consciousness, we can recognize that. We can recognize how we have the habit to construct something and maybe to bring something else up to take its place. And maybe we call it science, or we call it Nonduality, or we call it self, or we call it consciousness. But if for this evening we don't call it anything, we just are it. And it's not an it. We just are. Then in this moment, in this moment of the void being itself, unfilled, there is the deepest fulfillment that is naturally recognized. And then from this moment, we speak. And we fail at our attempts to encapsulate or construct what's unspeakable. And yet, as human beings, we are designed to speak. And so we celebrate our speaking and we celebrate our failure. And in that failure, we meet even deeper. But if we imagine that we are successful, the meeting stops and we know something. We have something. We've constructed something. So I invite you to willingly sacrifice yourself to the truth of what is, so that you can discover what animates you and lives you and sees through you. Then death is not the enemy. Then the enemy is the ally. Speaking is not the problem. Constructing is not the problem. Intimacy is the medicine.